Active hope is waking up to the beauty of life on whose behalf we can act. We belong to this world. The web of life is calling us forth at this time. We've come a long way and are here to play our part. With active hope, we realize that there are adventures in store, strengths to discover, and comrades to link arms with. Active hope is a readiness to discover the reasons for hope and the occasions for love, a readiness to discover the size and strength of our hearts, our quickness of mind, our steadiness of purpose, our own authority, our love for life, the liveliness of our curiosity, the unexpected deep well of patience and diligence, the keenness of our senses, and our capacity to lead. I love this, and I see how we are all becoming leaders in our own lives and by sharing our gifts with others. My experience of cultural emergence is very much about becoming more of a leader by modeling proactive behaviors, habits, and practices. So excited and honored to welcome 4 visionary leaders who are sharing tools for the next level of our design lives. Might want to grab a notebook or a sketch pad, really encourage note-taking, art making, doodling, and designing during this experience. See what emerges from your creative mind and look for bridges between what is being said and your own design life. I am Delvin Solkinson, a Canadian permaculture student and teacher who studied with many permaculture pioneers. Serve as the diploma program coordinator for the Permaculture Institute, have a master's degree in permaculture with Bill Mollison, and I'm currently an apprentice of Looby Macnamara as I do a diploma tutor training with the Permaculture Association. Joyed to live and work with my wife, Grace, at Cosm Chapel of Sacred Mirrors, where we serve on the art ministry. Grateful today for consciousness and vision, the ability to see possibilities of the present and the future. And oh, so grateful, this profound miracle of being alive. So I'll let each of the presenters introduce themselves and share something that they are grateful for. Maybe we'll start with the extraordinary Maddy.
Thank you. I'm Maddy Harland, and I co-founded Permaculture magazine 3 decades ago, and I'm still editing it at the moment. And I also have been publishing books for the last 30 odd years, and I'm delighted to be the publisher of Looby's work, Cultural Emergence and People in Permaculture, and 7 Ways to Think Differently as part of my collection and life's work. And what am I grateful for? Well, you know, I'm grateful for beautiful ideas and for the opportunity to be part of the emerging wisdom that is coming into the world, and all the opportunities and alternative pathways that are emerging and strengthening and being woven together from silk threads into strong ropes. And I'm very, very grateful for a lot of the wisdom of the people I'm with on this Zoom tonight, and the influence that they've all had on my life personally. So gratitude to my friends that I'm with tonight, and for all the people who inspire and expand my understanding.
Thank you, Maddy. You've introduced me and my books there. I'll just show the Cultural Emergence and People in Permaculture here, and 7 Ways. And yeah, really grateful for Maddy and her publishing wisdom that has brought those to fruition, and grateful to be here, calling in from Applewood Permaculture Centre in the UK, and grateful for the technology that connects us and brings us all together across the world. Yeah, thank you. And I'll pass to Jon.
Thank you, Looby. I'm Jon Young. I'm in the Santa Cruz Mountains in California, and yeah, just really happy to be here with all of you and these wonderful visionary people that I'm sharing this this Zoom chat with. And I'm a person who's been interested in invisible structures for a very long time, working with what we call culture repair, cultural mentoring, and the context from which this emerged for me was mostly in trying to figure out how to get more people connected to themselves, nature, and other people. So I've been working with permaculture since the early 80s, but I was teaching with Penny Livingston and James Stark at Regenerative Design Institute, you know, in the early 2000s. And yeah, we went on to form a program that combined nature connection with permaculture, and it was this absolutely wonderful experiment. And started working with Looby a couple of years back, and together we taught a program at Applewood Permaculture Farm where Looby is located. And she challenged me right in the beginning. She said, you could always just say all the same things you always do, and I could just say the same things I always do, but what if we just met in the space in between and see what emerges? And that's how we helped to facilitate the emergence of cultural emergence itself. And it's been a wonderful practice to be involved with. I've really enjoyed working with Looby. She's been a tremendous help to projects that I work on worldwide. And yeah, just really glad to be here with these wonderful people, as I've said. And I'll pass it over to my neighbor to the north, Drew.
All right, thanks everybody. Thrilled to be here. It's bringing me back to when I first met Looby in 2014, and knowing Maddy for so many years, and knowing of Jon's work, and meeting Delvin today. It's really thrilling, and to be here to celebrate this book is a tremendous honor. My name's Drew Dellinger, and I'm a poet, speaker, writer, and teacher. And I was a longtime student of Thomas Berry, and so I've been very interested in the links between cosmology and worldview and social justice and activism and eco-spirituality and these types of things, as well as the arts and education. And I feel like all of my interests are contained in Looby's book. It's such a rich cornucopia of so many different angles onto the larger single issue of how do we transform our culture in positive directions, and what are the directions for the future to unfold in. So I'm grateful for, my back porch faces east, so I get this, and I have a great view to the horizon basically, and so I get to watch the moon rise, and I get to watch the stars arcing across the sky as they appear to travel from east to west, as the Earth is constantly rolling eastward and the horizon is diving into space. And so I'm just grateful for the miracle, as Delvin said, the miraculous nature of our existence, that we get to be conscious beings on a sentient, biospiritual planet that's spinning through space, and that we are woven from the consciousness and the biophysical depths of the galaxies themselves. And we somehow get to be part of this and enjoy our triumphs and travails and our joys and our heartbreaks. And it's just a kind of a miraculous reality that we're all participating in. So glad to be here with all of you.
How have you been influenced by cultural emergence?
There are many things, but I'm going to try and be very succinct. So some of the core aspects or routines of cultural emergence have really deeply affected my life. I have to say the first thing is the practice of gratitude has gone deep into my whole being, and it's really helped me. I knew that practice as a good healthy theory, but to really take it into daily life and to create the space of reciprocity. So buying being grateful, we empty out and we allow the space to receive from this remarkable, incredible spiritual, biospiritual sphere that you expressed, Drew. So that's one of my moments or deepest aspects of transformation. But I would also add, you know, to be reminded of nature connection and to practice that every single day of my life. It's like that's the other side of gratitude for me. It's deep sanity in a challenging and complex world. And then to have deeper understanding of how to identify patterns in my own personal culture and in society at large, to have that framework to work with, that is cultural emergence, and to also have more insight into leveling privilege, but also to recognize our privilege and have gratitude. You know, don't hate ourselves for who we are, but try and use that privilege for the best outcome and the best expansion of consciousness possible, and to recognize that life is absolutely a process of learning, and that we need to go on and on and on, trying to uncover privilege and understand it more deeply as part of our patterning. And that would be my main takeouts.
Thank you, Maddy. Yeah, there's lots to cultural emergence, lots of layers, and obviously in writing the book and in teaching the courses over the last 5 years, lots has emerged for me, and the influence has been all around me and within me. And I came to Applewood Permaculture Centre at exactly the same time, managed to manifest that exactly the same time as cultural emergence came into being as well. And so the deep nature connection practices that Jon has shared in particular when here have just strengthened my connection with the land that I'm living on, and with being part of this community of beings here at Applewood. And for me, the process of cultural emergence has really given me this trust in the power and the potential of emergence, and this potential for collaboration and for this quantum shift in humanity to happen, that it can and it happen in more beautiful, amazing, quick, emergent ways than we can possibly see at the moment. And it's really given me that trust and that hope in in something amazing happening with humanity, that we in this non-linear way from where we are at the moment. Yeah, so thanks. I'll pass over to Jon to share how cultural emergence has influenced you.
Thank you, Looby. Yeah, I think it's something along the lines of what Maddy just said as well. It's so hard to really pin down one simple thing that cultural emergence has done or how it's influenced me, because it's really, you know, it's a woven tapestry of tools and practices and emergent phenomena. So I've really enjoyed Design Web tremendously as part of this, and especially when working in designing and reviewing principles, to look at the principles of cultural emergence has a tremendous influence on the practical outcome of what I'm doing. And I've had amazing, I feel like I've been put into the flow state through cultural emergence much more consciously. I think I've a little bit more agenda driven or plan driven before that, but have become really conscious of the opportunities of what emerges out of the space when you actually create the space and review cultural emergence principles as part of your process. But I think the thing that's helped me the most is actually recognizing limits, and learning from Looby that when you flip a limit, you know, just as an idea, as a creative process, allow yourself to look at the things that have been self-limiting or externally limiting, and just flip them over and say, what if they were the opposite? What if they were not limiting, but unlimited? And what would that do? And that has just absolutely broken down the walls of design for me. And in so doing, it's created this river of energy that has been flowing. And my life has been a series of synchronicities. I feel like I'm surfing the flow, which is really great. Um, just things that are kind of coming out effortlessly, and it allows me to hold more of that really peaceful state inside, knowing that I can trust, as Looby said, trust the power of emergence, the consciousness of all of us, and not just the humans, but all of the beings that we share this planet with, are all part of the synchronistic flow when we open to cultural emergence. So, I don't know what more could be said about it, because it almost sounds like I'm describing some sort of alchemy and magic, which I think I am, frankly. But it makes things very fun and interesting, and it also gives us the opportunity as human beings to be so much more forgiving and so much more open and creative and loving, and that's just been incredibly helpful. So I hope that's helpful.
Great. Thanks, Jon. Well, I'll just say frankly that I think I'm still grasping and integrating the depth of everything that falls under this rubric of cultural emergence. But part of what I gleaned from the book, and part of what it means to me, is this really powerful linking of philosophy and practice. What we could call praxis, and linking the kind of daily to the daily actions and small, digestible, tangible steps with a kind of visionary understanding of these huge, massive cycles of history and these long arcs of transformation that we're involved in. And I think it's very it gives a sense of hope and promise and optimism. Because we do have challenges. We have immense on the kind of national and international levels in our daily lives. We have these immense injustices and poverty and rising fascism, potentially, and challenges to democracy. So I think it's very inspiring to recognize that there are these larger stories as well as those kind of more in your face kind of challenges, that we're involved in huge transformations of the planet and of civilization even. And one thing that my teacher Thomas Berry used to say is that ecology is functional cosmology. Ecology is functional cosmology, that when our worldview, when our cosmology, when the basic story that a culture tells itself about where it comes from and how it relates to the cosmos, when our cosmology is functioning, then we have ecology, we have permaculture, we have social justice, we have democracy. So I think of cultural emergence in that sense, that it's a way of integrating our cosmology, our worldview, and getting it really functioning so that filters into our daily lives and our daily practices and our social institutions. And I think that part of what is so exciting about cultural emergence is that it holds both of those poles, the massive and the civilizational and the cosmic, with the tiniest daily actions and practices as well. So I find it really exciting. And the one last thing about cultural emergence, as I think was mentioned, is that in an emergent framework, tiny variations and the smallest seeds of change, can end up having massive impact. And we know that from, chaos theory and complexity sciences. So, it really underscores how everything that we do on even the smallest minuscule levels can end up having profound impact and significant, affecting significant transformation.
What is your vision for cultural emergence?
Firstly, the vision, just moving from where you were there, Drew, was just this hoping that the vision of cultural emergence has this positive impact in individuals' lives, that it helps us to be grounded, be grateful, find our gifts, share them, create healthy patterns in our lives, in our families. So definitely want that support on that individual level. And then I vision cultural emergence to be like this mycelium network that connects these change makers and these networks of change makers as well, so that it's a route to change, to transferring nutrients and information and ideas and language and processes and methods, and that it connects us all up, and that through that connecting up this network, it really strengthens it, and it kind of, it takes over, it becomes, as you said, through that cosmology that we're living by, it lifts us all up, and it has this potential then for this collective wisdom to move through the system and to become the system that we're moving through. Yeah. Yeah. Get the big vision of cultural emergence. I'll pass to Maddy. What's your vision for cultural emergence?
So the cultural emergence is like an organic being, and it started inside your brain, and it sort of spread out, and you know, Jon got involved with the birthing of it, and I got involved with the birthing of it, and Starhawk and other people, and then the book came, and by that time many people had been exposed to it on courses. So I see it like a seed that's now way past germination and is beginning to gain strength and grow into something much bigger. And then as we published the book, it sort of pulled in, you know, the more visionaries, and like Drew and many other people, and I now see us as at a place where, as you said, Drew, we desperately, you know, we're living in a very, very difficult world that is beset with problems, you know, around climate crisis and the very dangerous fake news and the rise of fascism, not just in one part of the world, but in many. And we are here really to hold this consciousness that there are other ways of doing things in life. And we've worked hard in the last 30, 40 years around good ecology, around understanding and developing not only how to care for the earth, but how to regenerate the earth and the oceans. And we're beginning to gather this fantastic body of knowledge and practice that's proven. And we're beginning to become wiser about our relationships with each other, human beings, and with the more than human world. We're beginning to open ourselves to the possibility that, you know, we're not just the only intelligent ones on this planet. We are on a sentient planet that is animate, and there are many beings on this planet with wisdom and millions of years of evolution, and we're just beginning on a scientific level to really begin to understand the implications of those millions of years of evolution, and you know what they contribute. We've been a little bit separated and arrogant as a human culture to date, but I think, and I'm referring really to the West, because obviously traditional cultures have held that perspective and worldview despite the strength of Western culture that's tried to sweep it away. But I see cultural emergence as another ripple out of, you know, the stone falling into the pond of wisdom and rippling out. And this is really another dimension that if we can learn the tools and the framing of how we change our personal and our communal and our political cultures, then we can begin to really truly live the ethic of fair shares, and which is, you know, one of the basis of permaculture, that we can truly begin to see that we are part of an interdependent system, that we are in relationship with all aspects of life on this planet, and that it's beholden to us that we change our culture to take count of that interdependence. But how do you do it? You can't just do it by thinking nice thoughts or even meditating every day. You have to have tools and a framework that you can actually take that theory and put it into protracted practice. And where do you start? Well, you could start with your local political system, but the best place to start is in your home and in your own life, and then ripple it out into the world. So yes, we can make big changes, but yes, we can make the tiny beat of a butterfly's wing on the other side of the planet, and know that that beat makes a difference as well. And that is hugely empowering, because it means that we don't have to make great grandiose gestures or changes. We can just make the changes that we personally can affect, and change will come. And if we tell each other that on a collective level, then massive change will come and is coming.
Well, thank you, Maddy. That's a tough one to follow. I don't really don't want to take away from what you just said, because I just feel, yeah, what everyone shared before me in this round has been just really rich in my heart, and I'm offering my voice as a second to all of the things that have been said here. I'm aware that you know, due to the history of not just colonialism, but so many other conquest-driven changes in the social sphere of humanity, has resulted in massive systemic historic trauma. I mean, it's sort of the elephant in the room that I hardly ever hear people speaking about, but it's the problem behind the problem behind the problem, you know. And I've seen for a long time that in microcosmic ways, whether I'm working with you know, youth in urban locations, adults there, or out in the country and different parts of the world, that when people give their nervous system a chance to re-engage with the lands around them and the landscape within them, in the way that our nervous system has evolved for, you know, hundreds of thousands, but really millions of years to behave the way that it does, you know. And if we engage in activities that allow us to remember to awaken our senses and to reconnect with the natural world around us, it also changes the way that we connect within ourselves and also with the cosmos and the other people. And, you know, my experience has shown me that when you reactivate that ancient nervous system, people become a kinder, gentler, more connected version of themselves, frankly, you know, and they want to be part of the solution. And, you know, everything that Maddy just said about, you know, starting at home and starting with small things that you're doing on your own, in your own family, in your own neighborhood, these are the great places to start, because it builds that foundation of connection and, you know, inner peace that allows us to be our best selves. And then we're obviously better off at that point, able to, you know, move in circles of influence from a place of enduring power, really, and healthy power, and a good a good power, not a authority over, but power from within. And so my vision of cultural emergence is very much related to that. When I was visioning back at Applewood, I don't remember what year that was, but I think it must have been 2014 or 2015. What is it that I want to bring, through cultural emergence? And I just recognized that I really wanted to be part of a really phenomenal community of people who are really in their gifts and really bringing things forward, so that I can do the same, so that I can bring my experience and what I've spent 40 years working on, to add it to the soup, to this beautiful salad that is all of our creativity weaving together. Because I think, in a way, I spoke earlier about the flow state, and I really believe that even though we face all the challenges that have been named here in this time, it doesn't take away the power of creativity. It doesn't take away the power of vision. It doesn't take away the ability for us as human beings to collaborate and to weave a dynamic web of cooperation. So my vision would be to just really support, that everyone could have access to that birthright of connection to themselves, to nature, to one another, and to, the unborn generations. Because really, when we forget about them, we make different kinds of plans, and if we can really think in terms of what did the people who lived before us do in their best heart to leave the world in a way that it would be good for us, and if we could all really think about a vision for what if we didn't just kind of stop the bleeding in this lifetime, but somehow made it better for the future generations. That's a wonderful intention to hold, and it generates a lot of cooperation and power. So that's what I would bring, to just be part of a web of people who are working on these larger things. But as Maddy said, starting in my own yard. So starting in my own body with my own family. So that's what I want to say there. Thank you.
Wow, I'm so touched by all these powerful visions. When I think about my vision for cultural emergence, I think of a society that puts the earth and justice at the center. What would it mean to put ecology and justice at the center of all of our institutions, of all of our considerations? And I think about a society, a diversified but unified kind of global society that has many different expressions, but has some universal values of joy and compassion and solidarity and ecological thriving and peace with the planet. And I think about creativity. I love what Jon just said about that. I really think that creativity is our birthright as cosmic beings. We emerge from a cosmos that is creativity, and we're part of a cosmos that is celebration. Thomas Berry used to say celebration is a one-word synonym for the universe. The stars shine, the rivers flow, the birds sing, the flowers blossom, humans create art and poetry, and all of this is an ecstatic celebration that is the cosmos itself. So I think about transitioning from experiences and the kind of confines of consumerism and capitalism to a unified yet diversified global society that's much more about creativity and celebration, that's about joy and learning and communion and equality and kind of radical egalitarianism. And when I think of Looby's book, part of what comes to mind is that I've once heard somebody say that the definition of a leader is someone who creates more leaders. And that's how I feel about Looby and her book. It really demonstrates Looby as a leader because in this book, as a model of leadership, because it's a toolkit and it's a very empowering and inspiring resource for creating more leaders. So I kind of imagine a global, peaceful, nonviolent, loving, joyful, creative transformation where we have movements and cultural dynamics that are full of leaders taking many different forms. And I think that this model of cultural emergence gives us a model of leadership that creates more leaders.
Wow. Amazing message of transformation and manifestation. What emerges for you right now as a comment in this discussion?
I wanted to read a very short little poem that I think speaks to part of what cultural emergence means to me, but this poem is called Revision. Open your eyes, see visions. Imagine a melody infinitely, listen. A planet of stories with islands of silence, a planet of stories with islands of silence. Her curved surface radiates grace. Milky Way blazing in the sky above the city, speaking in fractals. The stars are telepathic. Wake the poets, wake the dreamers, cultivate the tendrils in the vineyard of your heart. Reorient our buildings to the solstice, and from the center of the city, see the stars. So that's a poem of mine from my little book here, Love Letter to the Milky Way.
Wow, thank you, Drew. That was gorgeous.
Well, again, thank you. Yeah, Drew, that was a beautiful poem. I traveled to the night sky in my mind and saw that Milky Way and felt so many things from that. Thank you. I'm just feeling into everything that's been shared here, and it's a big bundle. There's a very big ball of wonderful spirit in this conversation, and my feeling is to really ask the question, what brings out your creativity? What causes that voice inside of you to sing and to bring you to that place of vision and to that place of poetry, and what allows the creative flow to come through you? And I would just offer that, maybe a little time under the tree in your yard or on the bench in the park, and just dropping into that place where you're using your peripheral vision, looking for your fingers on the edge, listening for the quietest sound at the very edge of your hearing in all directions, and allowing yourself to just absorb what the Mother Earth is constantly emanating through all of the beings here, and just let it enter you and feel yourself expand into it. I've never known anyone who's expanded their senses and connected their hearts to the beings of the planet around them who hasn't experienced an increase in creativity and flow state energetically. So trust that ancient voice that you were born with, that is in harmony and communication with the telepathy of the stars, to just quote back to Drew's poem there. But yeah, and get yourself a copy of Cultural Emergence. I think you'll enjoy it. It's a wonderful toolbox. So I'm really thankful and honored to be part of this this session today, and just really congratulations, Looby, on the book. And Maddy, thank you for supporting Looby's work and in the way that you do. Thank you. Over to you, Maddy.
Thank you, both of you. Yeah, my heart is quite full. I feel very grateful. And I think for me, one of the most exciting things about this whole thing is that this isn't just about us five here having a conversation between ourselves and sharing it on these platforms. This is actually an invitation to anyone that's listening to say that the whole point of this is that it's a shared endeavor, that if you want to engage yourself with these visions, this deeper connection, these changes, that everything is accessible and available. It is not a closed club. And one of the most creative and magnificent aspects of cultural emergence is that emergence is emergent. And I know that sounds a bit like a Zen koan, but it's just one of these beautiful principles that is actually saying we don't know what's going to happen with this framework, with this toolkit, because the invitation is that that whoever is called takes it and makes it their own, and then amazing things will come from that that cannot be predicted. And so fundamental to the entire sort of DNA of cultural emergence is this unexpected blooming of creativity that is our possibility. And I think that's incredibly exciting because, as you said, Drew, this isn't about us being leaders. This is about empowering and seeding leadership throughout all the people and all the cultures and societies who wish to take this message forward and adapt it and create something emergent from it. So that's it's a kind of, it really is like the seeds being sown and then things growing and the unexpected occurring, and that excites me because then this is a much more universal happening and isn't dependent on those old hierarchical structures that we've run the world with to date and obviously have been a bit limiting, to say the least. Thank you.
Wow, thank you. I'm feeling full as well, and I'm sure there'll be many ripples in my dreams tonight and thoughts tomorrow. And I'm sitting with that idea of creating leaders as well, and how this is about taking personal leadership and then increasing our functionality and coherence and alignment as a whole that comes through that emergent properties that we don't know what that will look like now, and that coherence of purpose, and we'll still be able to maintain our diversity of cultures in there. It's not about creating one culture, it's about creating many cultures.
Feels like waking up to a new level of visionary consciousness. Where to from here? What new cultures do you want to emerge in your own life and community? Certainly check out the visionary work of Maddy Harland, Jon Young, and Drew Dellinger. Amazing to be in your presence today and to see what has emerged out of these magical moments. The new Cultural Emergence book by Looby Macnamara, that's been the focus of our discussion today, is available through distributors of Permanent Publications. And you can also get signed copies directly through Looby at cultural-emergence.com, where there is an abundance of learning opportunities, videos, podcasts, classes, and courses, both short and long, free and flexibly charged for, online and in person. You can also sign up for the mailing list and get newsletters in addition to a free 7 Ways to Think Differently ebook. There's a Cultural Emergence Facebook group, which is amazing and is connected to a series of other groups and pages, and the Instagram at Cultural Emergence and at Looby Macnamara. So I'm looking forward to meeting more people and reading comments and deepening the connection and the network that comes from this living ripple. I thought I'd close with a quote from one of my heroes, Leonardo da Vinci, who said, "I love those who can smile in trouble, who can gather strength from distress and grow brave by reflection. Those whose heart is firm and whose conscience approves their conduct will pursue their principles." And I'm certainly going to keep pursuing the principles of cultural emergence in this ongoing learning journey. Thanks to everyone for joining us today, and looking forward to the next chapter of this story.